fine. Good. Yeah. My son is Seth Grossman.
All right, can I have your
son's name is Seth Grossman.
Oh, your son's name is Seth Grossman as well.
guys, I feel terrible because we have this the setup here that we have half the group can't do the other half. How am I coming over here? I want to introduce everybody here. So Jenny, you want to come over? Sharon,
move your little
Fernanda. Okay, I like to do the same thing we do with our.
Coming out?
Yeah, she's gonna sit over here.
Okay.
I like to do we do with our Liberty and Prosperity meeting, and that is to introduce everybody so we're not strangers. So I like to just ask everybody here from back there to say who you are and where you're from. Starting in the back with Mort over there.
Go ahead, Mort. Say hi, I'm Mort.
My name is Morton Klein. I live in Marion and Ventnor. And everything I've ever heard Seth Grossman say, I've agreed with, and that's why I'm here.
Well, thank you. And by the way, this is a mutual admiration society. Because for years, I've been watching this group, not even knowing the connection with Mort, but Zionist Organization of America, a Jewish group with common sense ideas, like a conservative principles standing up to Israel, and like I'm not taking every wacko left-wing cause. And one of the things that pleased me very much, like what they call the Anti-Defamation League, the ADL, is probably the most anti-Jewish, anti-Israel, pro-Democrat, pro-socialist, pro-Palestinian, pro-everything, and yet that organization is seen as making the pronouncement as who is the racist, who's not the racist, and most of their hatred has been directed against Mort Klein and his organization. So that's why when I felt during I guess 3 weeks ago when I was called by Rolling Stone magazine to be one of the most 8 most hateful, bigoted politicians in America. I felt I was walking in Mort's footsteps. You took that abuse for how many years have you taken it?
I've been president for 25 years, believe it or not. And we're the only Jewish group to have filed an amicus brief to the Supreme Court supporting Trump's travel ban from countries whose citizens are unvettable and they're just terrorists everywhere. We've supported that travel ban. Thank God the Supreme Court did. Every Jewish group filed an amicus brief condemning it and being against Trump's travel ban. Even though the people that he's stopping from coming are almost all extremely anti-Semitic and hating Israel. And yet the Jewish groups have opposed Trump's travel ban. So.
And of course, by the way, I want to take that thing. I'm going to ramble a little bit because it's an informal group. But one of the things that's very interesting, the Atlantic City connection we have with the war on terror. Because really, the terrorism that I saw start in America really started in 1988, 1989. When President George Bush Sr. took into America a fellow called the Blind Sheik.
Yes.
And I don't know if that rings a bell, but he was implicated. Actually, it all started when Sadat, the president of Egypt, and was it Menachem Begin, the Prime Minister of Israel, made a peace treaty. And the president of Egypt went to Jerusalem and spoke to Jerusalem, and there was high hopes of having peace. A few years later, the president of Egypt was brutally murdered. And that really killed the peace process. The person who was implicated in that murder was with the Muslim Brotherhood, somebody called the Blind Sheik. And he went into exile, he was in prison, but somehow in 1988, when George Bush Sr. was president, he invited or permitted the Blind Sheik to come to Brooklyn, New York, and set up a mosque in Brooklyn, New York, where he went around to various mosques around America where Muslims and Jews and Christians were living together, and the disciples of the Blind Sheik said, no, that's not authentic Islam. You've got to hate your neighbors, hate America. And the first victim of that hatred was a rabbi called Mayor Kahane, who was gunned down in the streets of Manhattan.
I was at his funeral before they sent his body to Israel.
Right.
That was my father's rabbi.
And by the way, Kahane spoke many times to Atlantic City. My parents I have the record. So basically, he did that. That was in 1990. 3 years later,
He was my Hebrew school teacher, Mayor Kahan,
yeah,
before he was assassinated.
yeah. And then 3 years after that, followers of the blind sheik set off a bomb underneath the World Trade Center in 1993. All from this little mosque in Brooklyn. Now here's the Atlantic City connection. My dad was a dentist, and he was friends with another dentist called Malin Stern. Malin Stern had his dental office on the 200 block of Pacific Avenue in the Inlet. His son, Chuck Stern, made a career with the FBI. In 1997, it was the job of Chuck Stern, the FBI agent, to fly to Pakistan where they had, and by the way, the only reason they caught who did it was the terrorist who blew up the World Trade Center or set off a bomb, killed about 23 or 30 people. And they had no idea who it was until the terrorists decided they wanted to get the deposit back on the van that they put the bomb in. And because of that, they were able to make the connection between the terrorists and who they were, and one of them ran away to Pakistan. So it was Chuck Stern from Atlantic City who brought the terrorists back from Pakistan, and in the course of doing that, he befriended this guy, and the guy explained the whole story about how he was, the blind sheik was putting all this stuff together, and when the plane flew back from Pakistan on its way to New York, they passed the World Trade Center, and he said, "Oh, by the way, we figured out our mistake. We didn't have enough explosives, but we're going to do the job right next time." This so alarmed Chuck Stern that he was working together with another Atlantic City native, John O'Neill, who had also worked in the FBI, and they were talking about the danger of this Islamic terrorism, but they got nowhere with the FBI. The FBI bureaucrats didn't want to listen to them. Eventually, John O'Neill was forced out of the FBI, and he took over the job as chief of security for the World Trade Center, and of course that's where he was killed on September 11th. So we have this Atlantic City connection here. That's worth knowing about. So I rambled a little bit. I was trying to introduce everybody, but everybody triggers a memory. So of course we have Rita Klein sitting next to Mort, and from Maryland, Atlantic City. And who's in the back there behind? Margot Silk, Sam Silk's wife from Tannenbaum and my last. Okay.
Carla Allberger from Mays Landing.
Okay.
Olga Christensen from Margate.
And my dad's favorite tennis partner. Thank
And
you
my
very
daughter Carol.
Carol Lee,
From
right?
many places.
Okay. And behind you?
Joe Bridenstine from Linwood.
Okay.
Bruce Barkoff, Egg Harbor Township.
All right.
Justin Crawford, Galloway.
Okay, welcome.
And Glenn Gabriel, Absecon.
All right.
Oh, Michael Smith, Mays Landing.
Len Grossman at my house. I didn't get caught in the rain.
Ginny Nelson, Absecon.
Pierce Thompson, Egg Harbor Township.
Okay, let's go. We're gonna go back over there.
Eve Greenspan, Brooklyn, and Atlantic City.
Okay, I'm standing up there.
Jay Grossman, Linda's brother, got caught in the rain.
Bunch of Grossman.
Okay. No relation.
No relation.
For anyone who's not
Except my
Jewish,
son, Seth Grossman.
yeah. Anyone who's not Jewish doesn't know that Grossman's like the Smith and Jones. Okay, we got you, Kyle. We got Mike. Okay, over here.
Jennifer Fisher, Galloway. Mrs. Fisher, Galloway.
Okay, if you can see around the corner, you see Jacob
Jacob's
Fisher.
down there playing.
Right? And you see the lawyer. We have Dora Grossman making sure the water's off the floor because she's the lawyer, doesn't want to have the liability. Okay, we have Judy Butler from Pleasantville, and over here,
Simone from Atlantic City.
Fernando from Atlantic City.
Sharon Aloy, Atlantic City.
And calling for Seth Grossman from Atlantic City. David? Dave moved around to make it more difficult. Listen, thank you so much for coming out. And let me give you some inside baseball as to what is going on. Most of you have known me for a long time with Liberty and Prosperity. Most of you know me from being a councilman, being a professor when I found out how the colleges were brainwashing my kids as a radio talk show host. founder of Liberty and Prosperity, being a lawyer who started out in the inner city of Atlantic City because I didn't have connections, so I would take the cases without money that nobody else wanted. And then when I started winning them, then I got a reputation and I got it to be a successful law firm. So all that is what you know me for. And I was on city council in Atlantic City. I got to be a freeholder by winning the primary election by 1 vote. Some people remember that.
Yep.
So that's me. But now I'm running for Congress. And ironically, in a way, it's a tragic situation is what has happened to America. Because the person I'm running against, Jeff Van Drew, he's a dentist. My dad was a dentist. He used to work for my dad. So I've known him for many years. But as with a Civil War situation, I became a Republican. I think he started as a Republican. I got basically screwed by the establishment. He got screwed by the establishment. I stayed loyal to the Republican Party and spent 25 years in exile. He said, to hell with the Republican Party. He became a Democrat. But we all know what happened then. Sometime between 1996 and 1999, the Democratic Party got taken over by a radical bunch of lunatics. And I don't know how else to explain it. Other than when I was at Duke University, we had about 7,000 students. And you had your controversies, civil rights movement, you had the war in Vietnam, and some were on one side, some were on the other side. But of those 7,000 students, there were about 30 to 40 people who I could just describe as radical lunatics. They hated America, hated everything about America, and when everybody else was talking peace, love, end the war, their slogan, I remember it vividly, was bring the war home. And these were the ones that were involved with the Weather Underground, with killing policemen, with the Black Panthers, with setting off bombs, with robbing banks. Really dangerous, radical stuff. And it came to a head with the 1968 Democratic Convention and the riots in Chicago, and they were looking forward to this revolution. And many of us our age remember that there was a code word for revolution that they used called the rain. The rain was coming. And have you ever seen rain? I've seen the rain down in Africa. Hard rain's gonna fall. Think of the 60s of those songs. And when the revolution didn't happen, I forgot about them. I got married, had kids, bought a house I could afford, worked 50 hours a week, the American dream. Well, what happened to these 30 or 40 radicals in my college, and there were probably about 20 or 30 in every college. What happened to them? Well, they got little jobs. They said their revolution was going to take a little bit longer. And some of them got jobs with the newspapers, some got jobs at Hollywood, some got jobs as professors, some got jobs writing textbooks. And now we see what happened from 1968 to 1998, those 30 years, that group of radical nuts really took over so many important, powerful positions in this country. The newspapers, the Hollywood movies. Think about every Hollywood movie you've seen for the past 50 years. How many times is the villain always the white Republican business guy? How much is the hero the radical? You think the textbooks, when everything, we used to have Lincoln's Day, we used to have Washington's Day. Suddenly it became President's Day. Little by little by little by little. And what happened in the Democratic Party, I'll give you one example, the Sierra Club. Sierra Club was, they believed in open space, preserve our national wilderness. And something very critical happened in 1998. Until that time, the Sierra Club wanted immigration laws enforced because they said if we had big population increase, it's going to destroy our wilderness and our open space. But the radicals took that group over and said, we want the Sierra Club to fight for open borders and massive immigration. Why would they do that? Why would an immigration group, why would an environmental group advocate for something that hurts the environment? And the answer was, it had nothing to do with the environment, it had to do with political control. You saw the AFL-CIO. Trump took it over in about 1997, 1998. That was the heart of the Democratic Party. what did they do at that time? They came out for open borders, more legal and illegal immigrants. But wait a minute, that's a labor union. For years they said we want to raise the wages of our members. But by having all this immigration, it was lowering the wages of their members, putting them out of work. But again, the leaders of the labor union didn't care about their members. It was all about political control. And sometime around second term of the Clinton administration, 1998, 1999, that's when the Democrats got taken over by this radical faction with the Sierra Club that talks about the environment, but really is about political control. Labor unions about political control. All the Hollywood movies glorifying it. All the TV shows glorifying it. And what's the goal? To get us all chopped up into little groups, angry at each other, fighting with each other, broke, frustrated. And what's the end result of this?
Divide and conquer.
To really bring us down to this point. And so they really thought in 2008, when Obama was elected, that was all over. They said, Obama said a week before the election in 2008, he said in a few days we're going to fundamentally change America forever. And what happened? They almost did it. But then they had some surprises. They had the Tea Party, they had groups like Liberty and Prosperity, and they had Donald Trump. And so what they expected to happen in 1968 and worked 30 years for, and then when they thought it would happen in 2008, they thought they had it, and they didn't have it. And now the only people standing in the way of their total control, this hatred towards America that has been burning since I saw it in the 1960s, the only people standing in the way are us, President Trump, and I'm there to try to do my part to make sure they don't take control of Congress in November. And so as much as I like Jeff Andrew as an individual, as a person, I know what's at stake here. The whole country knows what's at stake here. This is a key district. They have to flip 24 seats in Congress from Republican to Democrat. If they do that, then they win. They get their fundamental transformation of America. It's up to us to stop them. This is a very winnable race. You know all the mud they've thrown at me.
Yes.
And what is shocking them, they thought it was all over for me. And now, if you follow their emails, I'm still here, I'm still standing, I'm still raising money, I still have support, and now they're going really crazy. So all I'm asking you to do is to stay with me. It's going to be a bumpy ride for the next few months. But if you continue, I'm so happy you gave me your financial support tonight. The weight race is winnable. I'm learning a whole lot of new things about politics. I was always a small town guy. Now what I have to do, I have to crank out. You helped me make the threshold, by the way. If I didn't have $50,000 in the bank by June 30th, I would not even be considered a serious candidate. You gave me $65,000.
Yay!
And by the way, I can't thank you enough. When I say you, I mean Liberty and Prosperity, friends, relatives, people we all know. And I remember I was $9,000 short going into the last day, and I put out this email, and I really did feel like Jimmy Stewart in It's a Wonderful Life, when everybody came up with the last minute donations and brought everything together. So here I'm standing. That was the good news. The bad news is I have to continue to raise $65,000 in July, and I'm almost there, very close to the $100,000. I got to do it again in August and again in September. I've got to have more than $200,000 in the bank at that time. But again, you got me started. If you wonder why you don't hear from me all the time, why you don't see me, why stuff will be posted on Facebook and there's not a response right away, I need you guys to help me. Because where am I? I'm on the phone calling people up all over the country asking them for money. And so far it's a persistence kind of thing. I could say that I've left messages on the answering machine of Sheldon Adelson, of Steve Wynn, and I said, Steve Wynn, remember I had the house across from the Golden Nugget, and I got 3 weeks of sleepless nights when you were pounding on the pilings to put them in there. Now I'm running for Congress. Will you help me? So I'm using all these personal things to try to get in there, and I think it's going to work.
Have you gotten in touch with Donald Trump?
No, Donald Trump, and I know everybody is trying to help me get in touch with Donald Trump. I have Jim Bertino, who had her cell phone number. I think they took away her cell phone from Kellyanne Conway. because she was getting so many calls from Hamilton, and so I'm trying to reach her there. I'm trying to reach Don McGahn. I have friends trying to reach Don McGahn. So everybody, we're all trying to get through to Donald Trump. But my hunch is the best way to get in touch with Donald Trump. We make this joke. There used to be a joke. What do you need to do to get a loan from the bank? To get a loan from the bank, you have to first convince them that you
Don't need it.
Right. So the best way to get Donald Trump's support is to show I can win whether he supports me or not. So that's going to bring him in, yes.
Seth, Mel Taylor. Kellyanne Conway's summer home is a few houses from Mel Taylor.
That's right there. If you see a lot of black limousines by the playground at...
and say she's here.
Yeah.
Somebody has to.
Okay, yes.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
be on it.
That's
Mel
who we need to
Taylor's
contact.
Mel Taylor said he sees her jogging.
Well, whatever it is.
Whatever it takes.
But what I'm saying is I can't do this by myself. I really need your help. One interesting thing was nobody has done a poll yet except the Democrats did a poll. And the Democrats did what's called a push poll. Has anyone got a push poll from the Democrats? And I talked to some people. So it was something would go like this. It'd say, I'm doing a public opinion poll. If the election for Congress were held today, would you vote for Seth Grossman or Jeff Van Drew? And the person said Seth Grossman. Well, if you knew that Jeff Van Drew was a brilliant legislator who brought jobs for South Jersey, would you still vote for Seth Grossman? And then the person said, yeah. Well, did you know that Seth Grossman said this and that and the other dirty thing? Would you still vote for him? So that's called a push poll. And normally a push poll is not an accurate poll. It's there to just, hurt
Push
the other
the
side,
agenda.
to push the agenda. But according to some insiders, I was only behind 8 points on that push poll that came out 2 weeks ago, which means this is pretty much a dead heat, in spite of all the stuff they threw at me. So the next thing that's going to happen is Jeff will probably have more money than me, but I don't need as much money as him because I didn't need as much money as Hirsch Singh to win the primary. I just need enough to get my message out, and if I could make that 200 to 300 grand, I could pull this thing off. So we all know why we have to pull it off. You can help me pull it off. I want to thank you for the support for getting me this far. And I remember how we've had our mood swings. Remember, I won the election, everything was positive. And after the election, I had 1 week of very, very good press. Everybody's saying how wonderful Seth Grossman was because the Democrats did their opposition research on the wrong guy. So I remember I had a week where they left me alone. Then they found out the stuff, and next thing you know, I'm a caveman on the front page of the Philadelphia Daily News. But anyway, so that's where we are. And some other good news. I picked up a gem of a campaign manager. His name is Tom Deese. He's going to be, the reason he's not here tonight is because I believe he called a meeting, and he's going to be at the Shore Diner tomorrow at 8:30 to do some nuts and bolts stuff. But he has really shown me how I have to, I've been through a lot of elections before, but I've been to small town elections. I've never did a wholesale thing where I have to craft messages. One of the things, for example, that Tom Deese did, he worked with Brian Fitzherbert. If you go on Twitter, you see I now have 4,000 Twitter followers. I started with 227 just 3 weeks ago. So we're getting the word out that way. We're getting the word out on Facebook. So it's going to be something where everybody has to help in some way. So now a lot of folks were saying, I want to help, and we were disorganized. Now we have volunteers coming to the office to type stuff into our mailing list. Our mailing list has expanded from 1,400 to about 2,200. We have our messages. How many people are getting my messages every week? Okay, that's great. So if you're not, check with me. I'll find out why. But
I just want to say, because I don't know if everybody knows this, but tomorrow morning before the Liberty and Prosperity, and we have an opportunity to talk about Seth, Thomas Deese is going to be there and talk about and give some training on how to do the phone calls at home. You don't have to come to a location. He's got a software that he's going to do that training for a half hour from 8:30 to 9. And I want to just let everybody know, because that's the way you can help. You could sit at night and make phone calls all over the country for donations. But as far as he is going to do that training, and it's going to have a video and like a PowerPoint. So I want to let you know.
Well, that's great. The other thing I don't want to let the, okay, Olga?
A lot of people did not know about this fundraiser tonight. Doris Grable said she would have come, but she didn't know anything about it. I only found out because I talked to you on the phone. I mean, I didn't get any notice, or I didn't have any idea.
Well, that's one thing we have to work on. But you know, there's so much going on at one time, and we're so limited. So what I would suggest, if any of you could think of a place, like for example, if Carol, you and Mom want to have a little coffee clash, invite Doris Grable, I'll come to it. And just bring up. So,
How do we get signs for the house?
Yeah, signs for the house will be coming out in September and October.
These are bumper stickers?
Bumper stickers are here.
Yeah, I have them.
We have plenty of bumper stickers. Don't leave without a bumper sticker if you're going to put it on your car. And that'll be my first campaign promise. Put a bumper sticker on your car. I'll figure out some way to get off after the election.
A hair dryer.
No, there's something called glue thing. You
The other thing I want to say also is the Republican organization in Atlanta County has been absolutely wonderful.
Really?
Keith Davis has been wonderful. Frank Formica has been wonderful. Chris Brown has been wonderful, because this is what's been going on. For the past 5 weeks, the national Democratic press has been pounding me as one of the worst racist, bigots, Nazis, and white supremacists today.
And misogynist.
And I hate women also.
Yes.
And like I said, at first I took it as a joke. I said, if my grandma Betty were alive today, because my grandma Betty would always say, thank God for Columbus that we're in America. You know, only in America can we do this. She said, only in America can a Jew like my grandson become a top Nazi congressman. I mean, she would say something like that. That's how ridiculous it is. But that's what's going on.
WOND seems, like Ann Baker seems to be on your side on WOND.
Yeah, she's very
She's
encouraging.
always very conservative.
Yes.
And she's always, you know.
But let me tell you.
And Denny Levinson is certainly.
Yes, they have. But let me tell you, and of course, Mort Klein, anyone who has reached this level knows exactly what I'm going through. So what the Democrats do, they make lies about you, and then they get other newspapers to repeat the lies. Then they get editorials to write editorials based on your lies. So they assume you're all these bad things, and then they build and build and build. And once they assume that you're totally evil, they'll then go to all your friends and say, why are you associating with this evil guy? So they went to the National Republicans, and that's why the National Republicans said, okay, we disown Grossman. Then after they did that, they went to the state guys to do that. And what the state people said, they were all set to disown Grossman. But they said, we're not going to disassociate ourselves with Grossman unless the county chairman of Atlantic County signs the paper to go along. And Keith Davis refused to do it. He said, I'm not going to do it. And then the Democrats had a big announcement. They said, we're going to go to the freeholder meeting last Tuesday, and we're going to demand that the freeholders, actually Tuesday a week ago, demand that the freeholders denounce Grossman. And we're calling all Democrats to do that. So they showed up, and only about 5 or 6 Democrats showed up. We had about 50 or 60 of my supporters showed up.
Yep.
And the Democrats were too embarrassed to say a word about me. And that was the end of that.
Yeah,
so
it was
that
great.
didn't work either.
We'll take the little
We'll take it. We'll take it.
We'll take the little things. So South Jersey is standing firm. We have our message, and I just want to thank you for all you've done. And thank God it stopped raining. So we appreciate it. So is there any questions? I'll answer the questions. Otherwise, I'm going to say that's like the generic Jewish holiday. They tried to get us. God saved us. Let's eat. That was I think that's the standard Jewish festival, but yes.
I find that the talk shows are very receptive, even when I mentioned the fundraiser tonight. They were very receptive. Some people just say, well, you know, Seth knows where to reach us if he wants to buy time. But I haven't gotten that yet. I used to get that from Barbara Altman. But Don Williams has been receptive. Harry Hurley's been so-so.
There's Joe Pag. He's on 1450. I think he's coming in from Philadelphia or something.
Yeah.
He's very much in support of you. He's a Trump supporter.
Yes.
But it's very, very
And so
tough.
is Ann Baker.
Because you saw what happened on 101.5, right?
No.
You had the Attorney General of New Jersey, picked by Murphy. He was the one 3 weeks ago who said that from now on, every person who applies for any job in New Jersey involved the state police or the criminal justice system or anything in the Department of Law has to be hired, promoted, or transferred based on, quote, diversity goals based on demographics. So no longer the best qualified, no longer training, no longer work record. That's what it is. And then 2 days ago he said, I'm ordering all police and courts not to prosecute marijuana laws because we're going to change the marijuana laws in 3 months. They had this whole discussion, and basically, you had, I don't want to go into the details, but the two of the radio talk show hosts got thrown off the air because they were highly critical of that Attorney General. And they said they were attacking him because of his ethnic background, not because of his policy. So a lot of the talk radio folks are very, very careful now. So this is the kind of country that we have. But anyways, I'm not going to dwell on the negative. I'm going to dwell on the positive. Keep calling while you can. But again, I can't do it alone. I'm going to be spending most of my time, again, raising the money I need for September. Because September is when most voters start paying attention. Right now, they're not paying attention. So the only people paying attention right now are the insiders, like you.
Yeah.
But we've got to be ready to get our message outside. Okay, I'm sorry, anything else?
Seth? Oh, go ahead.
The way the story is told.
Okay, I'll talk about it. Yeah. All right.
I wanted to say one thing. When I've made phone calls, and I've done it for many, many years for a lot of Republican candidates, when I make them from my house, I use my landline phone. And people see who I am and where I live. And I tell them, if I wasn't for this person 100%, I wouldn't be calling you from my house. You have my number if you have any questions about this candidate. And they love it. Sometimes they call me back.
Well, that's the only way we're going to win. We're going to win with the bumper stickers. We're going to win with the lawn signs. We're going to win with the personal calls. So thank you very much. You've all been gathered here in this miserable night with the rain, with the puddles, with the I don't know how far you are for me to a taxi to get to your car wherever you park it. But thank you so much for dealing with this. And I'm gonna sort of adjourn this non-meeting meeting and just talk to anyone who wants to talk over some beverages, over some food. Thank you.
If you want to take some general questions,
Yeah, just a quick talk. All right, thank you.
He'll struggle. I'm going to take some car.
I did fundraisers for President
What's up? According to the picture on my phone, there's not supposed to be there.
Yeah, no, so today I was
It's supposed to be above us.